What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Show, where I, Graham G.S. Matthews, break down all the original content you watch on the WWE Network, on Peacock, and on Vice. As today we're talking Season 5, Episode 9 of Dark Side of the Ring. Enter Sandman, Legacy of a Hardcore Icon. The penultimate episode of the season, next week's season finale. I believe it's the season finale. I believe breaking down the Black Saturday episode, the Rise of Vince is what they're calling it. So looking forward to that one. This was good. The Sandman is the fucking, not logo, but like the cover star for this season. Every time I go to watch the show, and I never watch it live, like through DVR or online or whatever, I always see the Sandman. So they saved him second to last. I learned a lot about the Sandman here, and per usual, everything that I discuss in these reviews, just as a quick reminder, because I know some people get bothered when I get shit wrong. I apologize for that. I'm just going off of what I saw in this episode. And also some other times when I hear other facts or I know other stuff about the subjects involved in the episode, I'll kind of sprinkle them in. For the most part, a lot of the shit is new information to me, so I'm just going off of what they tell us here on the show. For example, in a correction from last week, they did not say on the show for a fact that Sensational Sherry's son had cancer. Her friend speculated he had cancer, which wasn't random, but it was a kind of a weird thing to speculate about, like on the show. You can obviously draw your own conclusions, but I think it was confirmed later on like her Facebook page or his Facebook page or something like that, that he does indeed have cancer. So my condolences to him for that. Wanted to update you on that from last week. So same thing goes for this week. I don't think there's anything like that there's really not worth speculating on, but nothing quite that serious, obviously. But sometimes some of the stories that they talk about on the show are not entirely accurate. Like that was definitely the case with the Tales from the Territory shows, for sure. A lot of exaggerated, carny stories. It was a great show and I enjoyed it, but I'm not really, I don't know if ignorance is the right word, but like, I'm just going off of what they're telling me through this show. I'm not going out of my way to double check some of the sources or including stuff that they left out, unless I do previously know about it. For the most part, I'm just kind of going off of what they include here in the episode, including this one, so let's get into it. They open up the episode talking about his iconic entrance, the Enter Sandman entrance. That was pretty much the extent of them discussing it on this episode, was at the very beginning. Probably the best part of Sandman. I didn't grow up on ECW, so I have no real emotional attachment to the character, Sandman the person. But the entrance is amazing. I mean, I don't know of anyone that, whether you're an ECW fan or not, that you can't enjoy that entrance. The first time seeing it either on TV or in person, he was at a big-time wrestling show that I went to back in 2016. So this is like washed up Sandman, obviously. And I don't know if he must have had beer. I'm sure it wasn't fucking Coca-Cola. But I was going to say Coke, but he was doing Coke back then, back when he was in his prime and during the ECW days and shit and after that. But he was doing the entrance. It wasn't quite Sandman of like 06 at ECW One Night Stand, or 2005 rather, or Prime Sandman in the late 90s, but it was still pretty fucking cool to see in person and hear the music and see him do his shit. So he had a nickname of Hack, H-A-K, which they actually called him, which I did not know that, in WCW, because they couldn't use Sandman, so they called him Hack. He became a fan of wrestling through watching the WWF back in the day. He talked about getting arrested early on in his life for God knows what reason. He went into it, but like this whole thing, it was going way too quickly for me to take notes during. Like I tried my best, but this is just like the Cliff Notes version, because this all was discussed probably within the first 3 to 4 minutes of the episode. He goes, I got arrested, I punched a guard, I was in the hole for 6 months, all this other sort of stuff. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, not that it surprised me, I just didn't know a lot about this sort of stuff, but like he was running it down so quickly it was hard to keep up. They really shoved a lot of information at you. They really threw a lot of stuff at you in this 1 hour, and I say 1 hour, it was really like 42 minutes without commercials, episode of Dark Side of the Ring. But he gets out of jail in 1984. He discovered an all-you-can-drink club not long after, where it was all you could drink for $10 on Thursday nights. And it was there that he became a Chippendales dancer for a little bit, got fired for soliciting money, obviously, blah, blah, blah. That was where I think he met his wife Peaches. I mean, was her ECW name, but she was actually interviewed for the episode. She's still out there. She's still alive. They're not married anymore. And I don't blame her, because a lot of the shit that he put her through, I mean, he was abusive at one point. We'll get into it, but, he met his wife. They had a kid soon after. He proposed to her, I think before they had the kid, but they made sure to get married before they had the kid. to avoid wedlock or whatever. Not like it's that big of a deal, but she does mention that. So he got the Mr. I mean, I honestly never knew this. This is how dumb I am when it comes to this sort of stuff. I did not know that he got the Sandman nickname from like the beach gimmick that he was doing prior to doing what we all know him as in ECW. He was Mr. Sandman, like Mr. Sandman, give me like that. I mean, I don't know if that was the intent, but I know that song from Back to the Future. I don't want to sing any more of the song out of risk of the video being demonetized. But I honestly never put two and two together. Like, oh shit, like Sandman, like beach character, Sol Ruka circa fucking 1992 or whatever. I never put two and two together, so I thought that was interesting. We hear from Todd Gordon, the original founder of ECW. Obviously, Paul Heyman is not interviewed for the episode, but they do interview a whole host of people from Sabu, Rob Van Dam, Bill Alfonso, Raven, and a whole bunch of other people from the prime days of ECW. So Todd Gordon, not as good as Heyman as far as in this role, but he was the original mastermind behind Eastern Championship Wrestling, so it made sense why they would interview him. And they talked about how the company struggled until Paul Heyman came in and really kind of gave it his own stroke of genius and reinvented the wheel, some of the stuff they were doing. Heyman actually told Sandman the first time that Heyman came in, the first night, he told Sandman, break that dumbass surfboard over your head. Not like in the moment, but like it was going to get broken over your head in a match. And Sandman, I don't know if it was that same night or like the next time or whatever, he went up to Heyman and was like, I forgot my wrestling boots. I don't know what I'm going to do. He's like, you don't need no fucking wrestling boots. I don't give a shit. So it was at that point, it really started to click for him, he says, where he could start doing his own shit. He could start being his own guy. He could start doing whatever he really wanted, I guess, and became who he was. And he started just being an extension of himself in ECW. He had a very relatable character. Again, we hear from Sabu, RVD, Alfonso, Raven, all talking about how relatable his character was. He talks about the origin of the cane and how I think the first time that he wanted to use a cane, Heyman actually broke off a fucking branch or something like that from a tree and had him use that on the show, which I thought was funny. We hear from his daughter. In addition to his ex-wife, we hear from his daughter and his son quite a bit on the episode. And they like get it, which is cool, because some of the family members they put on these shows have no clue what's going on, or they don't really offer anything. The son is clearly a fan, but he does say, I wish my dad was around more. Now, he was obviously incorporated into one of the angles they talk about with Raven, but, you know, and that's cool and all. And Peaches was obviously on the road with Sandman as part of his act for a little while. But they do wish that he could be more of a dad, and he was a good dad, I guess, when he was around, at least before he got into the drinking and the drugs and shit, but and the roids later on in WCW. But he was a good father, he was just never really around, is what they said. So they tell this story, Todd Gordon does, about how, I guess Heyman approached Sandman. Sandman had mentioned the story, and then Todd Gordon was like, yeah, that's not true. Where Heyman was, not that the story wasn't true, but that Heyman was bullshitting. Because they wanted to use... They wanted to have Sandman have a son for a storyline with Raven, which is what we're about to talk about. And he goes, I got Culkin, however the fuck you pronounce his name, the kid from Home Alone, on the phone, and we want to put him in this storyline, and Sandman's like, well, I have my own kid sitting in a fucking van outside of the arena. Why don't we just use him? And the funny thing is, I can envision that, because I just went to the ECW arena for the first time in Philly over Mania Weekend as part of that, not access thing, but there was some sort of like on-location event that I was invited to, got to check it out. It was really cool. It's obviously not the same. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing, I'm sure, inside as it was back then. But it was still very, you know, a lot of it is different. It's been decades, and I'm sure they renovated parts of it. I could be wrong, but it was certainly cool to check out. So I can envision that small-ass parking lot, a van being out front, and Sandman's kid just waiting in there until Sandman was done with his job for the night, done wrestling for the night. So I could totally use that. And then Todd Gordon said about the Culkin kid, the kid from Home Alone. Yeah, he was never on the phone. That was never going to happen. Raven, they talk about how he considers his feud with Sandman to be one of the best in the business, and he even admits, yeah, I'm biased because it was me, but I thought our feud was amazing. They had the son and the wife, actually, as part of the storyline, worship Raven and join Raven because he had that manipulative cult character at that point. And they actually, to live, you know, to stay true to the storyline, they had kind of had to live and travel separately. Not live, but like live the lifestyle of traveling separately for a little while until like they would get far enough down the road to where they can meet up, get all in the same car. Like, that's stressful, but, that was that they wanted to keep kayfabe for the fans, which made sense. So they shot promos at like 2 a.m. in random-ass locations with Raven because he just kind of had that mind for the business, and the kids, they would get the fucking kids up, or at least the son, and film the promo, and he would probably go right back to bed, he said. They shot the crucifixion angle, rather. I think it's crucifixion, not crucifixion. Crucifixion angle, that was the one where infamously Kurt Angle was in the building, and he's a big like Christian guy. I don't know if he still is, but he certainly was back then. And he was not impressed with it, to say the least. He was very offended, and that was why he did not work with ECW back in 1996 or 1997, whenever they did that angle. And then obviously he went to WWE soon after in 98, 99. But yeah, he almost went to ECW and had that angle. I mean, honestly, but the thing is, it's not even one of those what if, like, if they didn't do it, what would have Kurt Angle have looked like in those days of ECW? He did go to ECW very briefly in 2006. I mean, that wasn't the same ECW. That was the WWE ECW. He did go there briefly, but it wasn't the same because it wasn't ECW. But had he been there in 96 or 97, honestly, if it wasn't the crucifixion angle, it probably would have been something else, to be perfectly honest. If it wasn't the whole cross thing, it probably would have been something else that offended him. So he probably would not have lasted long regardless. But anyway, they talk about how banged up his body was. Sandman, that is, I mean, Kurt 2 years later, obviously. This sounds like a Kurt Angle story, but no, Sandman's body was really beat up, broke a lot of bones, injured a lot of shit, hurt his neck, broke his neck, whatever he said. He got hit in the head one time, couldn't remember anything. Heyman had to bring in the wife to kind of bring him back to, if that makes sense. Started taking a lot of pills to cover up the pain. He got addicted to it. Ate all of RVD's mushrooms in his locker one time. RVD shares that story. OD'd at one point, did not tell his wife until she found out through like a bill coming in the mail. And they don't mention, maybe they do, but I don't think that was exactly what caused the separation or the divorce. I'm sure it was a major factor. I mean, if that was me, I'd be thinking, yeah, you're fucking gone. I'm divorcing your ass. Like, that's just ridiculous. Actually, no, it wasn't. That wasn't it. Because they went on to talk about how he went to WCW for more money. They were offering him like 5 times as much he was making in ECW. So he went to WCW. But he wasn't really a big guy because they mentioned that he never really worked out. So he started taking steroids. And through the roids, he became really abusive. Would literally like beat his wife. How aggressively, I don't know. But he would get really aggressive with her. And the kids mentioned how terrible it was to be around him, and it was tough for them to see what he was doing to their mom. Just fucking awful, disgusting stuff. The wife, at one point, he went out and bought like $10,000 worth of roids, I believe. Not drugs, but I think roids. And she flushed it down the toilet. And he's like, do you realize what you just did? And she's like, yeah, but, I'm not having this shit in the house. It's just tearing us apart, or, it's causing you to be really aggressive, and I don't like this side of you, obviously. So a real quick epilogue to close out the episode. They had a commercial right prior to that point, and then when they came back from it, they mentioned ECW closed in 2001. WWE bought it. They, had WWE, ECW, wasn't the same. They could do a whole fucking episode on that shit. I know they're doing a new documentary, which I'll definitely have to watch. The Rock's in charge of it. Who killed WCW? I'll definitely watch and review it here on the channel. It's a 4-part series. I guess I could just wait until the whole thing's out and then break it down then, but I'll probably just do every episode, because it sounds interesting. I mean, they've done a million different WCW documentaries. Hey, you know what? Fuck it, another one. It's from the same people that made Dark Side of the Ring. So, you know what? At this point, why the fuck not? They've talked enough about WCW through these episodes. Why not just do a WCW-centric special, I don't know how similar it's going to be, but they got a lot of names for it. They have a lot of people from WWE. It's not just like these ragtag people that aren't working anywhere and need the money to be. I don't know if they pay these people to come on Dark Side of the Ring. I wouldn't think so. Maybe they do. I don't know. But they have Booker T on the WCW one. The Rock, obviously, who wasn't really obviously a part of WCW. He was never a part of WCW unless you count his quick run as WCW World Heavyweight Champion in 2001. But no, they have him, Bischoff. I don't know if Hogan's on it. Vince Russo, I know, is on it. It's going to be great to hear what he has to say about some of the shit that he was doing back then. Man, that's going to be great. So anyway, back to this thing. They talk about how he joined WWE in 2006. Did not pan out well. He was there actually probably longer than people thought. Because after ECW kind of, it folded, not folded, but like withered away really, really quickly. Sandman was still there until like mid-07, because he had a Great American Bash, like Singapore Kane match, I think, with Carlito. Maybe they had it on Raw, I don't remember. But he had a feud with Carlito. He got drafted to Raw in 2007. Did not last long. He got fired or left soon after. They show footage of him getting arrested again for getting drunk at like... He mentioned that he attacked the owner of what, I don't know, it was a restaurant. Like, it was weird. It was like a wedding venue or something. It was very strange. And it was a pretty bad incident. Like he got physical. He started doing damage and attacking people. So he got arrested. The kids had to collect $10,000 from like separate ATMs where you can only take out $2,000 at a time. They had to go to different ATMs to get $2,000 because they wanted to bail him out for $10,000. And they kind of go around the horn with everyone saying, oh, I hope he accepts what he's done, what he has now, and just moves on. They all kind of collectively say, I hope he moves on. They do praise his legacy in ECW, but they all hope and say, like, I hope he's okay. Like, he was interviewed for the episode. He seemed with it here and kind of took responsibility for his actions. But I hope he doesn't go the way of New Jack, who died a couple years ago after they did an episode on him, and he died like a year later. So I hope it doesn't kind of follow that same path, because, I don't know, I've never met did I meet Sandman? I don't remember. I met Raven, I know that. I met Raven back in 2016 at that event that I mentioned, where, maybe I did meet Sandman. I don't think I did, I don't remember. But it was back in 2016, it was at that event, and they were both there, actually. And, anyway, what I was going to say was, he seems to be doing okay now. I don't know if he is or not, but, like, he seems a bit better and more with it. I think he was actually at that WrestleCon event over Mania Weekend in Philly, because I saw someone take a video of him doing the iconic Sandman entrance. I'm sure it doesn't hit the same as it did 25 years ago, but it's still cool nonetheless, as it was in 2016 for me watching it, even though I was never an ECW guy. So that was Season 5, Episode 9 of Dark Side of the Ring. Enter Sandman, Legacy of a Hardcore Icon, as we close in on here on 1,000 episodes of WWE Network and Chill in the last 8 years. I'm going to probably stop including the numbers in the title at some point in the next couple of videos, probably after we hit 1,000. It just takes up more characters. I know it's like 4 characters in the title, but, after we hit 1,000, it's established we've done a lot. We could take out the number of videos that we've done, because I don't really mention it here in the reviews anyway. But I thought this was a good episode. I'm looking forward to the Black Saturday one next week. Here on Dark Side of the Ring, the Rise of Vince is what they're calling it, and I believe that is indeed the season finale, and they have that WCW 4-part series starting, I think on June 4th, I want to say. I think that's June 4th, so that probably runs through the rest of June, 4th, 11th, 18th, 25th, so yeah, the entire month of June on, unless it's Wednesdays, I think it's Tuesdays, because I know this show airs on Tuesdays, and I'll probably break that down episode by episode, not include them in the Dark Side of the Ring reviews. I'll probably put them in original specials, that category, also part of WWE Network and Chill, but it's technically not a Dark Side of the Ring special, like that Vince thing they did a couple years ago. That wasn't a Dark Side of the Ring special, but it was made by some of the same people who were involved in Dark Side of the Ring. So anyway, thank you guys for checking out my review. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Have an awesome one, folks. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.